I tune into my body and I ask, what do I need? And I ask not only my energetic body, but also my spirit team. We all have a great spirit team. Why not? Why not ask?
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to this stellar episode with Elaine Glass. For over 15 years, Elaine Glass has transformed lives with her healing presence and coached countless people to unlock their true selves, finding purpose, peace, and self-empowerment. At one point, she found herself at a personal crossroad, a newly divorced mother, burnt out, fearful, and alone. She lived the next decade in search of her own truth. She traveled the world experiencing alternative healing methods, shamans, and spiritual guides. Her mission today is to guide millions in connecting with their soul to bring lasting joy, vitality, and purpose. In this episode, we talked about the quiet method, but we didn't just talk about it. She actually took me and will take you on a process of how to get quiet and how to really go through different points in the body to help you center yourself so you'll be able to meditate even when your mind is buzzing and there are so many thoughts going on. Just to help you center so you can meditate and be quiet and get the messages from your soul. We talked about healing trauma. We talked about how her and me are dealing with what's happening in Israel. It's been really hard for me. Really, 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 really hard for me the last 2.5 weeks. But it's all about finding your light, even when it's dark outside, even in the darkness, shining your light. And it's about self-care, and it's about going back to our connection with God and with love, self-love. A beautiful conversation. I hope you will enjoy it as much as I did. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Elaine, and welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
It's my honor. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You were a guest on my husband's podcast, Get Yourself Optimized, and he loved the interview so much that he was like, you have to have her on your show.
That's great. Had a great time with him.
Yes, and before we begin, can you share a little bit about who you are, about your purpose, and what brought you here?
Well, who I am is a soul having a human experience like everybody else. I recognized that early on in my life. I grew up kind of a quiet kid, very connected to spirit. But then life got loud, and like all of us, we lose our way. So my journey back to quiet and connection with my soul has taken me to where we are right here with you today.
Yeah. And what do you teach? What's your method?
So my method is called the Get Quiet Way. And I originally found this through the desperate need to hear some clear guidance. I had been going through a very difficult time in my life. I had found myself a single mother, finding my way through those challenges of doing things all alone, living with great uncertainty, environmental living, financial, you name it. I just was looking in so many different directions for answers, for guidance.
How old were your kid or kids?
My kids at the time were 8 and 10,
Oh, wow, young.
so they were really little. I had a full-time career as a dental hygienist, so I had that certainty, but I knew there was something calling me to do more, and I didn't know what that more was. And I had lost confidence through a difficult relationship, my marriage. I was so beaten down. I had totally, completely lost my greatness and access to that. I didn't even know who I was. I was just trying to make it every day.
That's an identity shift completely. Because when you're married, like, I know that my identity is has so much to do with my husband. And I can't imagine like something like this breaking up. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you. And it got me to the work I do now, though. And that is my life got so loud and it was so noisy and it was really, really terrible. But the one thing that always was the motivating factor in my purpose was to be the healthiest mom that I could be to my kids. I am a mother first. And I knew that they needed me and they needed me to be healthy, mind, body, and soul. So I went on a journey to make sure that I was healthy for them. And so what I teach is the method that got me back to life again, to get me back to reconnecting to my soul and all the messages that when we're so connected that way, we're so guided and it's such a loving guidance. And that's what I teach.
That's beautiful. What does getting quiet means to you? And can we even get quiet? We have so many thoughts.
That's a great question. We can get quiet and we need to get quiet. It is really what's going to save us in so many ways to living our what you call stellar life. And that stellar life, and I looked that word up, it's an extraordinary life. It's an extra extraordinary life, and I love that you call it stellar life because this is a God-given life. And so the way to get quiet is what I found to be a 7-step process to getting to the center of who we are, to the truth of who we are, who we are. So I found my way one very busy, chaotic day to a retreat center nearby my house in Arizona.
Of course. All
Yeah,
the good
and
stuff are in Arizona.
it's a quiet place, the desert. And so I walked in and I was led there by someone I had met and they said, you should go check out this labyrinth at the back of the retreat center. And I didn't know what a labyrinth was. So I found out it's a 4,000 ancient year old circular pathway and you walk this labyrinth.
Where is it? Which city?
Where is the labyrinth that I go to now?
No, that specific one you described.
Yes, it's at the Franciscan Renewal Center in Scottsdale, Arizona. But it's funny because I kind of was a little resistant in going because it's a Franciscan Renewal Center and that's not my faith background. And everything would have told me that there's nothing there for me. And I think that resistance really pops up in a lot of our lives when we know there's something good there, but we say no, we can't because of whatever reason. So I kind of
Doesn't fit our rules for life.
exactly.
The little cage we put on ourselves.
That's right. So I had to push through that. I had to push through that. And that was big for me. So once I did though, I started walking the labyrinth, which is really a metaphor to going to the center of us or the center and that connection to God or soul or universe. And I started walking the very first day. I got to like the third path and I heard a very clear message that said, surrender.
Wow.
Now, this was about 4 or 5 years after my divorce, and I was trying to just hold it all together, make sure nothing was falling apart, that my kids' lives and we weren't falling apart, control everything. And I heard surrender. And it took me about a month to even go back to the labyrinth again because I knew that it was like a magic portal I was entering every time that I was going to hear very clear messages to guide my life. But I had to be ready for that.
And did you surrender?
I surrendered.
What was it like to surrender?
Freedom, like I had just gotten out of prison.
Nice.
Yes, because we hold so much as women, particularly women who I particularly have a soft
I
spot
never
for
do that.
single moms.
Just kidding.
We hold so much, and it's like when can we just release? When can we just release it all and not hold so much? Because when we hold so much, there's such a density in our physical body, in our energetic body, that there's no place for the light to come in, for anything good, for any of those messages that we're desperately looking for to come in. And so when we begin to release, it's like this valve, this pressure just like releases. And all of a sudden you become so much happier and healthier and much more open to life guiding you to where your soul wants to go.
Yes. It's really hard to surrender. And every time I do it, it's a blessing. And yet it's like I feel like I need to surrender every 2, 3 days because I go back to my old patterns. And also when you are in this control phase or trying to hold everything, not only you don't get the messages, you can get interfered with. And so you get the wrong messages. And that's not good guidance for anyone.
You do get the wrong messages, and I think that's when we fall to our knees and we know that life has taken a very wrong turn for us. And in this noisy world, we've got to get quiet to listen to that still small voice. It's gotten so loud in the world that we have totally disconnected from that voice that's always there. We're never alone. It's always there with us, guiding us. And it always has the right direction for us, too. And it's very scary to listen to as well, because what I heard of the labyrinth, I walked that labyrinth probably 3, 4 times a week for years, desperate for the messages, but what it told me was scary sometimes.
Like what?
Well, it was like, oh, you're going to be a messenger for, people reconnecting with their soul. Now, I was a dental hygienist and a single mom at the time. How in the world would I could ever have trusted that? How?
And so how did you transition from this to that?
I was noticing in the dental world, in the modern medicine world, that I was no longer in alignment with the philosophy of, take this medicine, take this things that were I knew very unhealthy for our bodies, very toxic for our bodies.
Like fluoride. Like I don't understand why people promote fluoride and it's so bad for us. It's been used in the concentration camps to numb the people because it blocks your third eye. It makes people more calm or zoned out. I don't know the words for that.
Disconnected.
Disconnected and controllable. And they put it in our water supply and they put it in so many things and they promote it as a good thing and it's not a good thing. So I recommend everyone that listen, if you are using a toothpaste with fluoride, just look into it. In the alternative channels, of course.
Yes. Well, you're spot on about that. And so I just was no longer in alignment with what that world was for me. And I was expanding more in my own spiritual journey and going to conferences where spiritual teachers were, keynoting and reading a lot of books and trying to heal my own trauma and help my children. And so what I was noticing as a dental hygienist was I was really just listening to my patients and holding space for them and being able to help them. And after sitting with one-on-one with 40,000 people, human beings, you learn a lot about people in terms of their patterning. You learn a lot about how their energy body feels. And so I was putting all these things together in my last 3 or 4 years as a hygienist. And I thought, I could just drop these instruments and just maybe be like a life coach or something, because that's really what I'm doing essentially here anyway. And so that's what I did. I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I went to life coaching school. I got a certification as a master life coach, and I just started. And it ended that I grew pretty quickly because I'd already mastered the skills. I just needed to organize everything.
Nice. And how did that shift you as a mom?
Well, I think first and foremost, what it did for me as a mother was it empowered me to help my own kids realize that they don't have to follow the societal norms of what they should be doing, what success looks like. So I started to parent them Like Kahil Gibran's quote that says that children come through us. They are not of us, but they come through us. And so I really started to double down on my parenting that way and really being able to question and listen to them as little souls and guide them to whatever their greatness was going to be in this life. And it's a unique, unique experience for each and every one of us.
Right. And when you connect, when you find your quiet time, do you have certain guides, or is that like a voice that you hear or a knowing? What is the experience like for you?
I go through my own method when I get quiet. So it's a combination of energy points that I have come to know through the labyrinth work that were channeled to me through my guides. So energy areas in our body. There are 7 to 8 energy points in our body. So I focus in on those energy points. I feel what's going on. I ask my belly if it's bloated, like what do I need today? If my heart feels like, there's walls around my heart that day, how can I open that heart space? If my mind is racing, like you said, how do we get quiet with all those thoughts?
So much going on.
Right. I just tune in and say, what is it that I need to know? So those are just the 3 energy points, but they're out of 8. But so I go through these energy points, I tune into my body, and I ask, what do I need? And I ask not only my energetic body, but also my spirit team. We all have a great spirit team. Why not? Why not ask?
Can you take me through those energy points? And for the listeners, you can go on YouTube and see it, but I'll try to describe where it is.
Sure. So the first energy point, and these are in a very specific healing order because it also correlates with how you walk a labyrinth. So as you're going through the energy points, also keep in mind these are the same energy pattern as if you're walking those 7 circuit labyrinths. So it's very important to know that. So the first is the abdomen. The first is the abdomen, and that is all about nurturing our body. As women, we just beat ourselves up so much. So we got to start there. We have to start with the abdomen, the life force, where life begins for we women who have had children. So after we move, then we go up to the heart space.
So you just put your hand there? Do you
Just put both
press?
of our
Oh,
hands,
just
yes,
both of our hands. Okay.
because we are healers. These hands are are healing hands. And particularly women have this because think about anytime you hurt yourself or your child's hurt, the very first thing we do, we put our hands on that spot.
Yes, yes. True.
We can't forget our hands have healing abilities beyond anything that we can ever imagine. So we take our hands, we put them on our abdomen, then we put it on our chest area. The chest area is all about opening that heart space, taking in a deep breath, and releasing. And the next point is our head. And you can either keep your hands on your chest while you envision a healing light around the top of your head, clearing out all those thoughts, all the racing thoughts. And we keep breathing.
Good, because I forgot to breathe for a second. I was just like, light. Oh, okay.
And after the head, we can actually then take our hands down to our hips. And in the ilium, which is the indentation around the hips, the cupped shape area, is where energetically we hold all of our emotions, our stuck emotions. We think we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. I was shown that we carry the weight of the world on our hips. So what can we do? We can hold our hands on each hip. Imagine the energy swirling. It's a bit dark, it's a bit stuck. We need to move it. We need to release it. And we can do that by imagining and envisioning that energy, that stuck energy, just gradually coming out of those hips. And we can even use our fingers like this and move that energy out from each hip and let it just float away. It really feels good.
It does feel good, yeah. I feel more grounded already.
That does that. And then you're very intuitive because the next energy point is actually our feet. It is to ground our feet. But I have a different way of grounding than I think most people have learned. So I was shown that we not only ground down to the earth, but also up to the heavens. It's a dual action.
Grounding, okay. That's awesome.
And then after the feet comes the legs, particularly the knees. So we can place both of our hands on our thighs. And if you're sitting, you can even reach the knees. And imagine the stuck energy is actually under the kneecaps. So we can visualize the kneecaps coming up gently. The stuck energy, again, just like the hips and the kneecaps, the energy release out of the kneecaps.
And where does the stuck energy go?
The stuck energy goes out of the kneecaps, out into the universe, and it floats away. It's nowhere near you anymore. We're trying to create space. We're trying to become the lightness of being that we possibly can, and not to hold, like we were talking about before. No more holding. And then we put the kneecaps back on in our minds. We shed very bright light over those kneecaps, and we move on to the last point in this main area of our body, and that's our tailbone. What I was shown at the labyrinth was that the tailbone is really our spark of intuition. A lot of people think the intuition is here. What I was shown is that the intuition is in our tailbone. And so we again focus the bright light around that tailbone area. A lot of times we're sitting. A lot of times we've fallen. If we've had a pregnancy, that tailbone area gets very, very dark and stuck.
Why, if we had pregnancy, get stuck?
Because the baby pushes on that tailbone, and a lot of times we have sciatic nerve issues and anything to do with that lower.
Oh, I definitely do. Like since I gave birth, it's like my whole left side is out of whack. It's been 4 years.
Wow. So visualize that tailbone area, releasing that dark energy, putting that light back in there and sealing it up with love and light. And now, when we get to the center of ourselves, or the center of the labyrinth, that is the shoulders. So we focus on the last point, the tops of our shoulders. And we imagine now we've finally circled all the way through to the center of the labyrinth, the center of ourselves. Finally, we got here. And what do we feel? We feel a sense of wholeness. We feel a sense of unity with everything. We see now that energy, that bright, loving energy, shoots up into the infinite of the universe. It gathers all the information and knowledge and wisdom that the universe has for us and brings that energy right back down onto our shoulders. And those are the 8 points, energy points. And they're all associated with something of focus in your life. So that's what I teach.
That's really beautiful. And I already feel the shift. And it's very unique. I've never seen anyone goes from the feet and have the center be in the shoulders. But it makes sense if it's a labyrinth. I actually walked a labyrinth last week.
Oh, you did?
I did, yes. We went to a Maverick event with Yannick Silver, and we went to this beautiful farm. Incredible, like everything there was just beautiful, and crystals everywhere, and everything was very intentional and pretty. And on the property, they have 5 vortex sites, energy sites, and one of them is in the center of the labyrinth. And I think the owner's son got it in a vision, and he created that labyrinth, and he told us the whole story. And so on the first day, the whole group walked the labyrinth, and in the center we had a deck of cards, and we had to pick up a card. And I, of course, was late. And so I walked the labyrinth really fast. I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's just walk it. I wasn't very much in tune. But when I got to the center and I grabbed my card, it was spot on. It was a drawing of a yin yang. And I don't remember the exact quote, but it said something like, out of the mess comes elegant order, which was perfect for me because I didn't even know if I wanted to go because of everything that happens in Israel. And I was so sad and angry and depressed and out of sorts. And to a point that I collapsed at the airport. I actually fell. I think I lost consciousness from the stress and also from the guilt. Like, why would I go when these horrible things are happening? But we already bought the tickets and everything was pre-purchased, and I think I needed to get away from all the pain and watching all those like terrible videos and the atrocities that were done there. It's almost like every time you watch a video like that, it's a bullet to your soul. You just don't know that. And I feel like as Jewish people are very connected, and there's like it triggers the collective pain, the collective wounding. Like epigenetically, we are carrying our ancestors' wounding from 7 generation prior, right? And every time something, and I don't think ever I've seen something to this degree of horrible, but it's almost like a whole nation is under trauma. And honestly, it was very hard for me to quiet my mind during those chaotic times, but I was so lucky to be in that event, to walk the labyrinth, to get the card. And I stood in front of the group and I explained to them, I'm not gonna celebrate or do like I'm gonna be here with you, but this is what I'm going through. This is the experience. And people were holding me, and it was just really, really beautiful. The support I got. So I didn't dance, but I did like therapeutic dance. I did ecstatic dance where I was like stomping the floor with my leg and I was shaking my body because we have issues in our tissues and I just needed to release all this grief, all this pain, even this that fear of like collapsing from stress. And my little one was with me and he kind of like fell after me. And then when they woke me up and they're like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, sure. But it was almost like I was back to consciousness. And I see my little one in front of me crying. And it was such a wake up call for me to not take the the pain of the world on my shoulders. Even though like I was here supporting friends that lost loved ones and you hear a lot of horror stories, and it's nonstop and people are trying to be useful, but in all the social channels like you see stuff that are terrible. And that was for me no more. Like I can love, I can pray, I can help. I can't let this darkness bring me down because I have to be here for myself, for my child, for my husband, for my family, for my loved ones, for my extended family, the people I love, that for the world. I cannot function from that place of being completely broken. That you can't beat darkness with darkness. We have to shine our light.
Wow, beautifully said. Beautifully said. We have to shine our light. We have to, or else, or the dark wins.
So what was your experience with that? Because you told me that you're Jewish too, and it's in the way. I mean, it's a part of life, yeah. But what was it like for you?
Yes, and my first visit to Israel, very, very moving, very important to me in terms of my religion and my spiritual journey after that. Have lots of friends that I still keep in touch with, even since I was 16 years old. And I have a history of family who survived the Holocaust. So these are all very dark memories resurfacing, and it's very painful. And like you said, we have to bring the light in, because if we continue to expose ourselves constantly, because it's 24/7 news cycle and it's very easy to get that into our nervous system, I don't think that's healthy either. It's of course we don't want to look away. We want to very much know what's going on and be realistic of what's going on and talk about it. That's why I appreciate this conversation so much with you. And at the same time, we as light workers, women who chase the light, who want to spread joy and love and support and nurturing to those that we love, we've got to take a break or separate ourselves from the dark and tune back into that light. And that is what I would say, getting reconnected with the soul, because we can stay in the human suffering of the dark, but if we don't look for the light, and which I think is the soul, we're going to be in trouble and we'll continue to suffer. So for me, the getting quiet way that I teach is really connecting body and soul and getting to the light.
Nice. And were you able to connect even when you were really upset about what happened?
Yes, in fact, this morning I told my family, I said I'm going to be doing my get quiet way, and for me it can take 2 minutes or I can spend 2 hours. It really is up to whatever time frame I have, and I had the time this morning. And so I took 2 hours. I took that time for myself. And gee, I never would have ever have done that as a single mom with a busy, crazy life. I wish I would have told that younger self to, though, for sure. But that's a self-care that I do now. And so yeah, and I got to the light. I got to the light. And when I woke, when I opened my eyes, because I wasn't at the labyrinth. I do this at the labyrinth, or I can just do it lying down, whatever. You know, we went through through the energy points together, you and I, just here. So you can do it anywhere. You can do it on a busy train or bus, or
Nobody will know.
nobody will even know you're doing it. Yeah. But you open your eyes and you go, oh, just like you said, oh, I feel better. I feel more grounded. And we're grounded, really what you're feeling is, and I mean, you can describe your own experience, but for me, what I'm feeling when I open my eyes is a peace, is inner peace. And I think that's what I had been wanting my whole life, during the difficult moments. And the Get Quiet Way has helped me tremendously, have inner peace.
Beautiful. Last night I went to a women's circle. It was all Israeli women, and we were putting some music and moving. As my friend's backyard, it's on a lake and there's grass, and we lit some fire and some sage, and we saged ourselves, and it was, can I tell? I mean, it was just open to everything. Like there were a lot of painful sharing, that were heavy and painful, but it was also really, really great to just be in a community and hold each other's hands and pray. And we lit candles, and everyone was lighting candle and said a prayer, and especially for the hostages to come back, and for our soldiers to be well, and for our civilians to be well, and for our families and friends to be protected. It was really beautiful, and it was such a vulnerable, humane interaction where people actually spoke their minds, and it was okay to be grateful for the moment of being together. It was okay to laugh. It was okay to cry. It was okay to scream. We actually were screaming like in front of the lake. We're just like, ah, just letting it all go. And I know that I read somewhere that the survivors of 9/11, there were two groups. One that sat in front of the news and were consumed by it and were kind of like an island, and the ones that were more with their communities and got more support. And so the one that got support from the get go had less PTSD than the ones that were just isolated in front of the computer. And what I see in Israel now that is so beautiful, the Nova Festival, where everyone that doesn't know, it's been, I think, like 3,000 to 5,000 young, party people that are dancing and like just beautiful people dancing and having fun. And then they had the assassins coming from Gaza, the terrorists, and they just shot people. I think they just shot like young kids that were dancing. And a lot of them were traumatized now. So in Tel Aviv and in other places, they opened a big space that actually looks like a festival where people come and they offer sound healing and they offer acupuncture and body work and breath work and just for free, like food for free, healing for free. People are really coming together and being there for each other, which is was very moving and really beautiful to watch. And I'm gonna add one of the videos that my friend sent me because he's a healer that I worked with in Tel Aviv, and he just sent me a video of one of the spaces that they did it. And so the only thing for us to be the light and help others, we have to be the light to help others.
That's right.
Oh, sorry, I was talking a lot. This is your interview.
No, no, no. I think this is really important, and it's important for me to hear your soul speaking about it, and you're like really right now, the message that you're sharing is really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And in that circle with those women, I believe, and I actually heard this when I was at the Western Wall, if about last December when I was there. I took my sons there for the first time. The three of us went. It was always a dream of mine to take them to Israel, to Jerusalem. And I was there, and I've had my hands on the wall, just feeling the energy. Now, as a grown woman, I'd been there as a kid before, and even in my 20s or 30s, I didn't have the perspective I do now. But I felt the wall, and how warm it can feel, how cold it can be, in the wintertime.
I love the energy of the Western Wall. It is so beautiful.
It's like nothing else. And it came to me in that moment, an intuitive hit. I said to myself, women are the keepers of the soul.
Wow.
And I was like, what does that really mean? Women are the keepers of the soul. And I feel like the moment that you women yesterday in that circle by the lake, you were bringing in, like you were keepers of the soul. That was the light you were all bringing in. Women just intuitively know we've got to be keepers of the soul. We can't get into the dark, just, three-dimensional suffering. We've got to look for the light. And so when you were telling me that story, I was like, that's probably the keepers of the soul right there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like the more circles like that we can have, the more we can pray. I feel like we can shift outcomes. It's almost like I don't know if I want to go there. I'll go there. It's almost like there's like spells, like dark spells that are being cast, and then when you bring the light on there, they dissipate, and it doesn't work for the dark side.
Well, I hear you. I hear you. And that's what I think. That's why I think I was drawn to the labyrinth, and why I'm so passionate about people walking labyrinths, is because I really feel like it's a portal of light. So if there are any spells being cast, let me tell you, you get to that labyrinth, you start walking those paths, it's magical. You really are in a portal of light.
So, what's your advice for people navigating hard times these days?
I would say you are not alone. You have access to the unseen And that would mean for me access to that still small voice, to God, to spirits, to guides. This is not woo woo, this is real. And if you are going through a difficult time, get quiet and trust that what you hear is your soul's voice. And that's what's been missing in your life. And trust the guidance of what you hear. It's not crazy talk. I thought it was for me, and it was actually leading me to exactly my soul's purpose.
Thank you. How can we heal trauma?
We need to become aware of what it is. So we do need to first analyze it. Where did it come from? What happened? Tell the story. But that's not where it ends. We've got to then feel it, feel the emotions. People are afraid to feel. I know I was. You think you're just going to drown in the pain, but you will come out of that pain. The emotion won't last very long. And when we shine the light of awareness around trauma and actually then feel it, deeply feel it, like give yourself permission to lie in bed and feel it and cry and be angry and any emotion you want to feel. And then if you really have a wonderful partner or a friend or even a coach or therapist, voice what you're feeling. Voice the emotion. Give it a voice. Give it a voice. Like you women last night, screaming, crying, whatever you had to do, get it out of our body. Like you said, the issues are in the tissues.
Yes. And especially in our hips.
Yes.
That's amazing. So being mindful at this time is crucial and very important. And you said you tell your story and then let the emotion run through you and let them go. And I know that some people are get stuck in their story and in victimhood. So where do you draw the line? Where is I screamed enough, I cried enough, and now I'm on the way up, rather than just getting stuck in a very sad loop.
Boy, we all are familiar with those loops. And what I have found with, gosh, particularly sitting with over 40,000 people one on one,
That's pretty incredible. Wow.
and also hundreds of coaching clients, there's an element of safety to be stuck in a story. It's comfort, it's certainty, and anything different would be change and uncertainty. What if I did choose to forgive that person? What if I did choose to not stand in judgment of, what if I did choose to just write another story, have another experience? I could have easily stayed in a lot of anger, with my ex-husband. But I chose a different story. And the story was, he didn't do those things to me. They were done for me, because had I not had that experience, I would never have gone down the road that I am now, which is very deep in my own spirituality and sharing that with the world. So you've got to change the story to a more positive one.
Right. And also it goes back to faith in God creator, that we don't know why n- bad things are happening, and we don't know why those souls that came here, maybe they came, that was their soul contract to come here for a specific reason. We never know the bigger picture. But I still believe that there's God and God loves us. And I don't know why so much pain is going on right now, and so many terrible things are happening. But it's a part of God's plan. Like we are a part of God's plan, and I just have to trust. And I also have to trust that God is love. Actually, I know that God is love.
Yes, and as Jewish women, we are raised that God is, above us, all around us. And the thing that made the biggest difference when I really tuned in more into my spirituality through the years is that God is within us. So that love that is outside of us is also that love that moves all within every cell of our bodies. And so to use that, to use our bodies, to use the guidance that it brings to bring joy and love to the world, to spread that light, that's what we're here for.
Amen. What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
Know that you have a greatness inside of you that wants to just burst out. So if you feel stuck, if you feel lost, know that your soul is there guiding you to your greatness, to trust it. I would say that, again, you are not alone. Trust in God, trust in your still small voice. To live a stellar life is to get quiet and to tune in to your soul's voice. Then you'll know the path that God has given for you in this lifetime.
I love it. And where can people find you?
People can find me at my website. Oh, I've got a great free download. We talked about self-care, the ultimate self-care checklist. And that's at elaineglass.net. I'm excited about that because it really does help somebody take that first step to know, am I taking care of myself?
That's beautiful. Elaine, I really appreciate this conversation and thank you for allowing me to share with you. And thank you for all your shares, your wisdom, taking us through those energetic points, our own personal labyrinth in our body, and releasing some stuck energy. And thank you for your beauty from the inside out.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this time with you, Orion.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember, trust your soul to guide you to your greatness. Trust that you are not alone. And get quiet. Tune in to your soul and get the answers. And have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.